How about them Cowboys? It's the Cowboys Squad. Everything Dallas Cowboys every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from America's team the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. It's the Cowboys Squad Show, starting now.
It's a beautiful thing. The NFL season is off and running with week 3 already here, and so are we. Welcome to another edition of the Cowboys Squad Show, brought to you tonight by Mazda. This episode brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward, Mazda Move and Be Moved. Well, as always, we want to start with a welcome to the co-hosts of the daily Locked On Cowboys podcast, Marcus Mosher and Landon McCool. Good to see you guys. Great to see you guys. And as always, former Cowboys coach Glenn Stretch Smith. Coming up on the show tonight, a lot to get to. Very latest with the Cowboys. Final thoughts on the overtime win over the Giants. Mostly good, not so much for the defense. The Cowboys did lose Cooper Beebe in that game with a bad ankle sprain. We'll get into that. Jadeveon Clowney is officially a Cowboy. He's likely going to make his debut. And we've got the Matt Eberflus Bowl coming up in Chicago as the Cowboys visit the Bears. All right, guys. So it's the first time we're all together since the win on Sunday. Not quite maybe how we scripted it, but we had some questions though going in. Again, like I said, good that the offense scored 40, right? But the defense raised some eyebrows. What were your takeaways?
I'll go first. Cowboys are going to the Super Bowl. That's all I can. I mean, that's what we overreact to in week 2, right? No, it's a good divisional win, and we don't apologize for getting wins in the NFL.
That's right.
And there's nobody says that a division win against the Giants, even though you were favored, that you were going to win by 20 points. It just doesn't happen in the NFL very often. You get wins however you can get them. This one was not super pretty, but you got it done. And this is something that Landon and I have talked about over the offseason. This team needs to learn how to win. When things aren't going right, you got to be able to grind through some tough times and win games. And yes, it's the Giants, but these are the kind of games you've got to learn how to win. So I was encouraged that they did it. They've got a lot to fix going into week 3, but a win is a win.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. I think, resilience is a thing, and I think that it's important to kind of, for them to build it into the infrastructure of this team. And I think they showed a lot of it, when things did not look good and they didn't look like they were playing well early. And really, I think the most frustrating thing for me is that the Giants weren't necessarily playing well either, right? Like they were shooting themselves in the foot constantly. And the fact that the Cowboys couldn't kind of turn that around and beat a Giants team that, was beaten up and was kind of beating themselves, that was frustrating. But it did feel like as the game kind of turned around, they were able to turn things around. You saw a lot better, things on offense. We'll talk about the defense, which obviously, was pretty bad from tip to tail at this point. But I think that, you like what you saw in the fight from the team to be able to go in there, to take the lead back in the fourth quarter, tie it up, and then obviously to win it all in overtime.
I mean, this feels like, you don't want to get in a position where your style pointing wins. I mean, I think it's hard to win in the NFL. I don't care who you're playing. And it looks and feels like, the quarterback is starting to be his football team. I mean, you saw him continue to rally those guys. You saw a running back that I think is a good running back that I've been saying, if he can return to the guy he was when he was at North Carolina, he can finish runs. You saw him finish runs. You saw him pick up protections, understand protections. So offensively, this was what I think is going to have to be one of 16 more scenarios where you're going to have to score 30 to 35 to win, because there isn't anybody coming in magically to help you in the secondary. And if some of that doesn't change, and I don't want to steal anybody's thunder here, but if that doesn't change, I mean, you're going to have to. That's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to take the mentality that we got to go score 35 to win the football game.
And Coach, honestly, that was going to have to be their mentality this year, whether they had Micah Parsons or not. Like we saw that at times last year. Like they needed to be able to go out and score. What we've seen through 2 games is that they can do it. They had a fantastic first half against Philadelphia, an incredible second half against the Giants. They just need to start putting these halves together. And now you're playing with the positive game script, and you're not having to worry about stopping the run as much. You're right. They're going to have to be one of the league's best offenses if they want to be competitive this year, but they've got the horses to do it.
Yeah, that's where it's going to have to go. I mean, they're going to have to know week in and week out if we're going to come out with a W. That's going to have to be the mentality. And you might as well just chalk it up to being it's going to be a track meet team, because that's what it's going to be. They're going to have to win certain events, and the events have to be when they have the ball. They got to win those events in the track meet.
I mean, I honestly think that this was kind of the mentality of this team, even going back to Dan Quinn era. I mean, I think they stumbled into a season in which they got a ton of turnovers, right? And it made the defense look like, as a unit, like a more high-end unit than it was. But even that was really contingent on the Cowboys putting the opposite teams into the kind of game script that would allow them to attack with Micah Parsons and then have the coverage on the back end to take advantage of what Micah Parsons was creating in the backfield. I think that what we've seen now is that this is a team that really doesn't even have that fastball that it did when they had Micah in that it wasn't even just Micah. It was the combination of Micah with these kind of ball hawking corners. And that combination made more sense than what you've got now, where you're more reliant on the coverage, and you've got a bunch of guys who aren't necessarily sticky cover guys. They're more opportunistic guys, right? So I do think that there's more juice to squeeze out of this defense if they can find some better pass rush solutions, whether that's via trade or via blitz or just improvements in different areas, and maybe all 3, to be honest, because the Cowboys need it so bad. But I think that, this shouldn't be an unfamiliar situation for them to be in. This has been a offensive first team for a while now. I will say that I do think that even though the defense has been bad, I still at least feel like we're at least close to balance for the first time that we've seen on this defense in a long time. This is at least somewhat of a competent run defense. I mean, it's gotten worse as a pass defense, there's no doubt, and it needs to improve. But it does feel like this is for the first time a defense that is at least a little bit more balanced in how they are able to stop the run and the pass.
Well,
yeah, when you're just throwing the football up in the air and your guy just magically runs under it as he sprints buck naked through the middle of your defense,
untouched.
I mean, you could have had the New York Sack Exchange up there. It wouldn't have mattered. I mean, it would not have mattered in my mind with a secondary. Are they doing a better job stopping the run? Sure they are. Best guy on defense is a guy that's been in the Metroplex about 17 days.
That's fair.
He's a good player, though. That's a good. I mean, he's really good.
And I'll tell you what, I think he's really affected Osa's abilities in a positive way too. I think the two of them have been a good combination. The problem is, like you said, Coach, like getting a little bit more pass rush, and then having the back end guys, give just enough to allow for the pass rush to have a second to get there. For goodness sakes, and let's just bring that up, Coach, because I do want to talk about this. To me, it felt like the biggest issue, and it just seemed like over and over again, is that they just refused to kind of displace these guys that were running up the seam in cover 2. And it's just running straight down the middle of a too high shell. I was just like, how is no one getting not getting a hand on Robinson when he's getting up the field? And I think that was really frustrating. Then, to see some of those Tampa 2 snaps where you've got Sanborn, who's the pole runner, And it's like, yeah, maybe Sanborn can't keep up with Wan'Dale Robinson if he just doesn't get touched and doesn't get bumped at the line of scrimmage or anything like that. So I think the most frustrating thing to me about that was you saw it multiple times and it didn't feel like it ever got corrected at any point.
You could have had Brian Urlacher running through the middle of the field. It wouldn't have mattered. I mean, it wouldn't have mattered. I mean, these guys, if you're not playing with certain leverage, okay, I get it. You're playing off coverage, so you're probably not going to get your hands on them. Yeah. But if you're at least not, I don't know if you guys have ever seen when the defensive backs start their individual drills and they kind of weave in and out. If you're not at least changing a receiver's pattern,
that's right,
straight through the middle of it, just with leverage, just be a speed bump in that situation, then it is a technique that is completely – it is no technique, and it is something that is foreign to me. I mean, completely foreign. So I'm an offensive guy, but I know one thing. If you allow my guys to run through the middle of the field, we'd have hit our head on the damn goalpost so many times it would have split your foot.
Wan'Dale's not that tall, so that's why he couldn't do it. One of the things I'm curious to see is what happens with this defensive end rotation, because right now, they're playing like 5 or 6 different guys, right? And now you add another guy in Jadeveon Clowney, and I almost wonder. I know Matt Eberflus wants to have waves of pass rushers, but I almost wonder if they're going a little bit too deep right now. They're not letting these guys get into a rhythm at all. And honestly, I wonder if they're playing some of the wrong guys too many snaps. That's something that I want to see what happens over the next month. Do they shorten that rotation a little bit? Is Dante Fowler not getting as many snaps? Is Sam Williams not getting as many snaps? It's something to keep an eye on in week 3 and moving forward.
Or is Marshawn Nealon getting too many snaps?
I think he's getting too many snaps, not because he's not playing well, but I think he's getting worn down. And by the 3rd and 4th quarter, like there was just no juice left at all.
Won't that get better as the games go on though? I mean, surely you got to get yourself in some kind of game shape. And when you haven't played at all in the preseason, you got to think you're going to get the win.
I think that's the actual problem, Coach, right? Is that like they're trying to how do you get these guys going with enough snaps, but also spread the snaps around so multiple guys are getting going and like still get the production you need from position? I think that's the one issue I think with the signing of Clowney, which we should probably talk about at some point. That like I'm excited about having Clowney on the team as part of the rotation, but like James Houston has been your best pass rusher. Are you like doing this at the expense of his snaps? If not, are you doing it at the expense of the guy who's been getting the most snaps but hasn't really been producing at the way you want, like Sam Williams? Like, so I don't know. Like I think it's made what I feel like was now become a difficult situation where no one has really stepped up in the first 2 games the way you would like them to, and it feels like you have all these pieces that you like, and many of them need snaps, but it's like, how do you distribute this while still getting what you need out of the pass rush? It's a tough question for me.
Landon, who are your best 2 pass rushers right now? It's 3rd and 9. Who do you want out there?
I mean, on a per play basis at this point, like James Houston is like he's doing it on a level that the others aren't. But I also think he's not getting the same attention. So I think that the problem is that your 2 best pass rushers are your 2 most undersized guys, right? Like I think Ezraku has actually kind of gone out there and shown you different stuff on snaps, but he's also getting eaten alive in the run game because he's 240 pounds. So those would be my 2 guys.
The 2 best pass rushers are the 2 guys that are fighting the inside 3 guys.
That's right.
I know.
That's right.
Well, I would say more on the edge part of it, because Sam Williams has the most snaps on the team by far of all your pass rushers. You got Ezraku at 48, Fowler at 55, Marshawn Nealon at 56, and Sam Williams is at 80 snaps.
Yeah.
And you just haven't seen anything at all that show. I mean, again, I know that he needs time to develop, but I think we should see those snaps maybe distributed a little bit differently moving forward.
I mean, I've seen enough of Ezraku in 2 games to know he needs his time diminished as well.
The problem is,
I think it's the situational. Like the problem is that I think all these guys are needing to be used in the right situation, and it's not quite all lining up the way you want, right? Like to me, the issue specific, like to get nailed down to it even more, is first down. We need to get to a break, but I think that if you break down the numbers and if you watch the tape, the Cowboys are getting absolutely murdered on first downs, whether it's run or pass. So I think when you break down the numbers of third down, you're seeing a lot better win rates, but they're not even getting to third down because teams are attacking them and scoring and getting first downs before they even get those opportunities.
All right. When we come back, I have a question that I want to ask to all of you. Also, we want to talk about Jadeveon Clowney, and the Cowboys did make a minor move to help with BB, and we'll get into that as well. Also, later on in the show, we're going to talk about you guys did a great episode on a potential blockbuster trade that I want to tease. That's coming up, and the Bears and the Cowboys Sunday afternoon. We'll get into that coming up. Great to be with you on this Wednesday night. This is the Cowboys Squad Show. And the NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure that you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, we are back. The Cowboys Squad Show. Landon McCool, Marcus Mosher, and former Cowboys coach Glenn Stretch Smith. All right, guys, so 2 games in, new defensive coordinator, Matt Eberflus. How much grace, how much grace do you give? What are you looking for? The roster is what it is, right? Micah Parsons is gone. He's not coming back. The roster is what it is. So what are you looking for? What can he do? How much of it is him? How much is it the roster? How much can they improve? Where do you stand on the potential as they, we talk about the offense needing to grow and get better and win games over the course of the season. What about the defense?
The expectation for the defense is pretty low. So it's not like we're expecting them to be a top 10 unit or anything like that. We just want to see improvement. I think Cowboy fans, if I told you right now they had the 18th ranked defense in the league, you'd sign up for that all day long, right? and honestly, if you have the 18th ranked defense, you're probably making the playoffs in the NFC with the offense that the Cowboys are going to have and their special teams unit. So can they get there? I think a lot of it's going to depend on how these young players develop. Donovan Ezraku, what do we see from him in the second half of the year? Does DeMarvion Overshown come back by Thanksgiving? What does the secondary look like? Can Deron Bland get healthy? Can Trayvon Diggs get a little bit healthier? Matt Eberflus has a fairly simple scheme. I'm talking about from NFL standards, right? That should allow these guys to play fast and know their assignments. It's going to take a while for, a couple of weeks for them to get used to it and comfortable. But if we don't see any improvement as the year goes on, I think that's going to be the concerning thing. But at least knowing Matt Eberflus and knowing his history, generally his defenses do get better as the season goes on. And they generally are some of the more disciplined defenses in the league. They don't have a bunch of penalties. They do stop the run. I'm somewhat optimistic, but it's all with the frame of we're just hoping this is a slightly below average defense.
I think I think you were looking at a situation before that it was like, you were hoping for a average defense when this situation came in before, Micah got traded. And it's like I said before too, it's like the Cowboys have kind of set themselves up for a situation where they need they have a defensive backfield that is currently reliant on a steady pass rush to kind of make them good. You have the pick six king on one side, and then you got Trayvon Diggs, who is obviously also a guy that's takes advantage specifically of bad placement of his ball situations. Neither one of these guys, Bland more so than Diggs, I would say, but neither one of these guys are, specifically full-time sticky cover man coverage guys. I think that they could be playing more man coverage, obviously, than zero, which is basically what we've seen so far. But I think that they fit what this defense is doing in the context that you have the pass rush to kind of help support that. And I think that's the issue that they're going to be working on the rest of the year is how do they generate the pass rush that they need to kind of make the rest of the defensive backfield work a little better. Now, I think the defensive backfield also needs to play better. I still think that they're kind of, figuring out the communication on the back end of some things. It felt like there were times when, like Diggs was in match quarters and he felt like he was supposed to get help inside at safety and there wasn't help coming. So it's like stuff like that where it's like, they need to, Diggs, another guy that we talked about, obviously didn't play any in the preseason, hasn't played a lot of football. So I think that as some of that gets sorted out, you're hoping that maybe the coverage is a little bit better in the back end. But like I said, if they can't figure out a way to generate a more consistent pass rush, then they're going to have problems all season long.
I mean, I am off of everything except get sound in the secondary. I'm off of anything. I don't give a damn if you line up with 4 receivers going to get the quarterback. I'm saying you got to be more sound than to let guys run right by you, and not only run right by you, run right by your safety. I'm not about just run right by. You cannot have guys free release into the middle of the defense. Again, I don't care if you have 5 Micah Parsonses. It doesn't make a whiskey shit. If you cannot reroute guys and not allow guys to run through the middle of the defense and never break stride, you got problems. I'm not saying that you're wrong in theory. I'm saying until you're sound with what you're doing in a secondary standpoint. And I remember times when we would get beat to the post because maybe our safety might say, hey, I'm going to jump this dig, and he does jump the dig, and then the post comes right behind it. That can happen at times. But when you see it over and over, and what you saw Sunday was, this is not some it's not T. Higgins and Jamar Chase running by you. Not to downplay Neighbors and what they have. I'm saying you have to become more sound with what you're doing and how you're playing leverage or whatever technique you're playing. Again, I don't give a crap if it's cover 1, cover 9, cover 6, cover 4. None of that matters to me. I want to see guys more sound in playing leverage and understanding where either your help is, whether you're funneling a guy into the boundary and you're playing leverage there, or you got over the top help. And right now, I'm just telling you that what I saw Sunday was a lost secondary. I mean, completely lost.
I don't disagree with you,
yeah,
Coach.
okay, go ahead.
Real quick. I don't disagree with you, right? Like it was ugly. I do want to put it into perspective a little bit that we saw last year with Mike Zimmer, a guy that I respect more than almost anybody else when it comes to defensive football. They played in week 2 at home, first home game against the Saints, and the Saints averaged 7.8 yards per play, which is exactly what the Giants averaged on Sunday. And that was with Micah Parsons, and that was with, Trayvon Diggs. It just early season football, especially when you've got a bunch of guys, with injuries, and none of these guys really played in the preseason. We should expect some sloppy football. Now, does that excuse everything that happened on Sunday? Absolutely not. There was some awful football. I don't want to assume just because of what we saw in week 2, that's going to be the way it's going to be for the next 6 or so weeks. It might be, but we see from time and time again, like weird things happen early in the year.
Yeah. And I think for me, it's like, I 100% agree, Coach. Like that's line, you're right. That's absolutely line 1 to me, that feels like the things that you're talking about feels like that's what's obviously going to be addressed, practice one of this week, right? Like to me, like I know that's like a correctable issue, I guess is what I was getting at. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like I think that I trust the coaches enough to eventually fix that part. Absolutely, it's the most important part. And you're right, like pass rush isn't going to matter if it just becomes a sprint to the end zone and no one's going to stop anybody as they run through the secondary. I think I was just at a point where I feel like this is, I lumped it into a list of correctable issues that these are professional football players. That wasn't very professional looking. I do feel like they can correct that. I don't think that's necessarily a personnel skill issue, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and again, I'm all right if it happens one time.
Yeah.
What I'm not okay is if Elam's playing a bad technique, Diggs is playing with bad technique. I mean, that when they're all doing it, that leads me to believe that maybe that's being taught. I don't know. I don't go to practice. I'm not in the meetings. I don't know, but it's hard for me to believe that it could happen over and over and over. And so that's the thing that's so alarming to me is you're going to get guys bust. That's going to happen. That's just football. And again, they can out scheme you, and they can get the right call versus the right coverage. Sure. But when it happened to the number of times that it happened in the situations that it happened, 3rd and 25, you just let the guy go through the defense. You go, what the hell are you doing?
One of them was on a 4th and long too, wasn't it? Like it was.
I tried to block that game out already on defense, so I don't know. Probably.
Yeah. I mean, it was embarrassing.
To your point, Landon, I mean, it's going to be without question, a great coachable opportunity. And the reason I asked is if you Google Cowboys, I mean, Matt Eberflus's face is everywhere. So, I mean, he's the talk of this week, not only for that, but also going into Chicago, going back where he coached the Bears. So
got great hair.
I do feel like, I didn't feel like the Eagles game was a disaster for the defense, right? Like I think that people are kind of also retroactively looking through the Eagles game plan after this and under the impression that the Cowboys defense played terribly throughout that game, which wasn't necessarily the case. They played pretty decent down the stretch of that game. So I mean, I think that they can get this corrected. The coverage, very basic stuff they can get corrected. Hopefully, where I have concerns or about, having enough talent, having enough, juice, that's in the pass rush area. And that's where I got to bring that up, because the question is like, do you have enough? How do you balance the guys that you do have so that they develop and get enough time and also produce? It's become a very difficult equation, I think, for the Cowboys defense.
All right. So what about Jadeveon Clowney? What do you guys think of the signing? And realistically, what can we expect, or what should we expect?
Jeff, I was really excited about the signing when it first happened. And then I saw he's wearing number 42 and basically his career's over. I mean, it's really unfortunate. No, but
negative number slag.
It's awful. I think shocked they didn't retire Anthony Henry's number back in the early 2000s. I think they can really use Jadeveon Clowney because he's built like Sam Williams. He's even a little bit bigger than Sam Williams, but he's such a better run defender, and he's way more disciplined, and his hand technique is way better. Now, that's at least what we saw over the last couple of years. You always wonder with these guys who are in their 30s how much juice they have left. But if nothing else, he's an upgrade on the edge on 1st and 2nd down. Honestly, I would not be surprised if he steps in and he's your best run defending edge rusher. And while that's not really why you signed him, it's a nice little benefit.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, we talked about earlier the concerns about the rotation there, right? Like the concerns about like how you're going to fit everybody. I mean, you haven't had a lot of great overall play from the position. And so but you also kind of are trying to wait for one of these guys to pop. I do think that he is a different body type than you have already, right? Like, I think, he's more, I saw pictures of him today, and he's so long and kind of slight, right? And he's all levers basically. And he's going to use that to play well against, these guys that, especially in the two-way situations where you don't know what's going to happen, if it's a run or pass. I think it's having that sort of these levers just allows you to get off blocks a lot quicker. Okay, it's pass. I can go get after the quarterback. And I think that kind of thing is going to matter. Because I think the Cowboys are kind of struggling with their early down defense. So having a guy that can provide you with solid pass rush while also being another kind of functional run player on the edge, I think it'll help specifically with the kind of stuff I specifically am worried about as far as, early down pass run situations. How do we get these pass rushers to get after the quarterback when they're in pass run conflicts?
All right, Coach, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's played a lot of football. He understands the game. I hope they manage his reps to let him get in the flow of what's going on, and I'm sure that they will. But he's an upgrade from what you have, and anytime you can add a guy like that where it absolutely fits monetarily with what you want to do, I'm 100% on board. So, let's cut him loose 12, 15, 18 snaps and see what you have in him. And I don't see any downside to signing Jadeveon Clowney.
No, I agree.
All right. Good stuff. Okay, when we come back, we're going to talk, we're going to shift gears and talk about the offensive line, the young Cowboys offensive line. We'll do that when we come back. They made a move, but I want to get your thoughts on how they have looked after the first couple of games, and also have a question for you guys about not only the O-line, but what we've seen so far from the running game as well. So we'll do that when we come back. Great to be with you on this Wednesday night. Cowboys getting ready to take on the Bears on Sunday afternoon. This is the Cowboys Squad Show. All right, this episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, they move culture, and they keep moving the game forward. So when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. And I think without a doubt, great game on Sunday afternoon by Dak Prescott, 38 of 52 for 361 yards, a couple of touchdowns, but as Marcus, Landon, and Coach pointed out, did a really good job leading the team and making sure that they found a way to win that game, a game that they really had to win, even though it was only week 2. You did not want to get in an 0-2 hole, and they did that. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, guys, welcome back to the Cowboys Squad Show. All right, we mentioned at the outset that Cooper Beebe is going to be out 6 to 8 weeks with a bad ankle sprain. That's a real bummer for sure. Brock Hoffman will step in, which is great. Great that they have him. But they signed this guy. I'm drawing a blank. I wrote
Wesley French. I got you, Jeff.
I got the French. I just didn't have the first name. So that's
I got notes for you. You want some notes on Wesley French?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, cool. I'll give you like a minute scouting report that nobody
Nice.
needs. So Wesley French, he actually started as a defensive tackle at Western Michigan. He had a fantastic spring practices, broke his foot right before the opener, missed all of his junior year. And then this final year, which was the COVID season, he got moved to offensive tackle, played a couple games there, was okay. It goes into the draft. Didn't get drafted, but coming out of the draft, he was viewed as like the top center, the top undrafted free agent center. And it was him and another guy who were competing to get kind of the biggest salary. That other guy was Brock Hoffman, by the way. It was Brock Hoffman and Wesley French.
Small
world, right? Signs with the Colts, ends up being a backup there for a long time. He's missed some time with ankle injuries, and that's kind of the knock on French. Colts fans were really bummed because they cut French and they moved on from Will Fries in the same offseason.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
I'm sure you can figure out the jokes there. But this is a 28-year-old guy who's a freak athlete. I mean, he's an unbelievable athlete with long arms. He's got a massive wingspan. I just don't know if he's good or not. I don't think so. That's about it. That's all I got.
Okay.
Good report, Coach. Thanks.
There you go.
Yeah, good job.
That's a guy right there you want working in pro scouting, whoever's listening out there.
But he does have some tackle experience, but he's going to be a center only in Dallas. Again, he's got some NFL experience. He's played well in preseasons. It's just the injury stuff. But when you're signing a guy to the practice squad, you don't really worry about the injury history too much, because if he can get you through a game or two, that's it.
And he's gotten good coaching at Indy too. Like they've got one of the better offensive line coaches. That they've pumped out a couple different really good guys over there, even their down roster guys. So he's at least gotten some good coaching while he was there. So I'm interested to see what he looks like.
All right, so give me your early thoughts on this young Cowboys offensive line, and now with the loss of Cooper Beebe.
It's a tough loss with Beebe, man, because it's, to me, that interior trio is really going to be a weapon. Was going to be a weapon for you this year. And look, I think Marcus and I were talking about it. Of all the positions in which you have a backup in, like a true backup in, I feel about as good about Brock Hoffman as any that we have. So he's certainly a completely different kind of player. He's undersized. He's not the same athlete. Probably not as strong. But he's not going to be a guy out there who's going to make a ton of mental mistakes. He's going to bring a level of attitude out there that is still going to maintain the kind of tip of the spear that you want to have with this interior trio specifically. I think that's kind of all you can hope for. And then as far as real quick, just the offensive line as a whole, I think you've seen them kind of find their footing a little bit. A bunch, look, Booker is obviously a rookie. Guyton is a guy who has gotten inconsistent snaps last year and was injured for a good portion of last year, and then obviously missed a lot of time in training camp. I think he's played better than what's been purported, to be honest. I went and watched all his snaps last night, and I think he's a guy that is still battling through a lot of these things. And I think that the Cowboys, in pass protection standpoint, are still kind of trying to figure out. I've seen a couple different times, and we talked about it on the show, where it felt like the offensive line was not served very well by the chip protection that they were getting from the backs and sometimes from the tight ends. I think that that's part of just the early season kind of interplay and learning that stuff. But I really love like the techniques and the stuff that Clayton Adams has brought to this offensive line room as far as protections, as far as the run game stuff, especially the run game stuff. The Cowboys are probably the most deadly team in the NFL as it stands right now when they run power. I looked at the numbers last night. Their success rate for both Sanders and Javonte Williams, specifically when the Cowboys run power, is number 1 and number 2 for all qualified running backs. So, I mean, that's a pretty strong indictment that Clayton Adams has brought something valuable to this run game, specifically when they do that split motion into power. Man, it really, something about it changes the box count for the defense or something, but they really struggled to kind of fit that properly, and it was a really powerful play for the Cowboys, especially in the red zone.
And one of the things I just want to say really quickly, I'm bummed about the Cooper Beebe injury, because I'm bummed for him. Like, he needs these snaps. He missed time last year. He's going to be missing, 2 months at least here. It's a bummer for him and his development. But what a luxury it is to have a guy like Brock Hoffman, who has got a bunch of experience. And I was messaging with Duke Manyweather, who is almost like the de facto offensive line coach here, who trains all these guys. And he said it's weird because usually when you put a backup in the game, they're a backup for a reason. They're going to be worse in just about every phase. But that's not the case for Hoffman. There's things that Hoffman excels at that Cooper Beebe doesn't, and the same, and vice versa, right? And actually, he was tweeting that out the other day.
Yeah.
I think I would not be surprised if Hoffman's a little bit better in pass protection than what Beebe is, and Beebe's a little bit better of a run blocker. But one thing we saw last year is that when Hoffman got into the games, there was an attitude about the offensive line, an edge that they just didn't have. And I love Cooper Beebe. He's one of my favorite players on the team. I'm rooting for him. There's just something a little bit different with Brock Hoffman. Like, he's a glass eater, right? Like, I think you'll see it right away. There's going to be a little bit different of a tone with Hoffman in here, and I'm excited to see it.
Him and Booker next to each other.
Oh, I know.
Really,
it's in Tyler
really
Smith. That three. As bad as the injury is for Beebe, I'm excited to see what it looks like with Hoffman.
Yeah, I don't see a lot of drop off here. I really don't. I think Cooper Beebe is probably a little more physical player, but I don't see a lot of drop off. And if you have to take a shot at a position, this was the position that you could afford to take it at. As far as what the offensive line is doing, they take really good angles. If you go back to the Eagles game, they're well coached at foot placement, head placement, hand placement, angle. The opposite of the defensive backs.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
Opposite of that bunch, and so they do understand how to take angles. I think their offensive line calls, to me, look really sound too, because obviously there are different guys that are moving. You talked about running power, and being able to run power to me is an attitude, and it's about an angle. And it's also about what your tight end can do and how your tight end can take care of the backside if you have to down block the tackle. So I do think there's a lot of different things here that are coming into play. And obviously, where what we talked about in the second segment was, I don't know if it's being coached. I can cut on the film, and I do know it's being coached in this part of the game, because you can see how they attack and the angles for which they go. So the offensive line is going to be strong for the Cowboys. I really don't see a whole lot of drop off with Brock Hoffman, and I'm extremely glad that he's had opportunity not only play last year but a bunch in the preseason.
Real quick, because I'm so glad you brought up angles, because to me that is everything here, right? And if you go back and watch the way that the Cowboys attacked Dex Lawrence, the defensive tackle specifically, they weren't dumb. You don't attack a bear head on, right? Like they were angling him from the side, sealing him off, getting guys around him. They were and they were doing it in pass protection too, Coach. One of my favorite coaching points you hear about play action, right? Is you want to sell play action, you pull your guard, right? And when you got a guy like Tyler Smith, you can pull play action, and then he can be out there and be your edge a protector, right? And they're using all parts of the Buffalo, as it were, in such a way that it's like they truly understand the personnel. And Coach is right. You see it in the way that they're playing. Everything is not just about power. Is not just about power, like Coach is saying. It's about attacking the angles and putting the defenders in disadvantageous, like, athletic positions, right? And sealing it off. If you guys, again, I talked about this on the show. If you guys only get the chance to watch one play with the all 22 angle from the game on Sunday, go watch the Miles Sanders touchdown run. They blocked it up beautifully, and you'll see exactly what we're talking about. It's about the angles of which they're attacking the guards. The Giants, and that's how they're able to seal it off, and everything lines up perfectly and creates the alley, and Miles Sanders just does a quick little slalom through, and it's untouched for a touchdown. It's absolutely beautiful, and it's absolutely so well coordinated, and very early on in the season, it points to excellent coaching.
Very nice. By the way, this is the first time we've been together also since Tyler Smith signed his deal. Are you guys okay with that?
Oh, yeah.
You guys, yeah. Okay.
It's garden
Absolutely.
football, of course.
Best garden football.
Yeah, just checking. Okay. And one other thought real quick. When we're talking about the running game, we were talking earlier about the offense and needing to score points and the defense, right? I mean, I would think eventually, right, that Brian Schottenheimer is going to want to run even more. And if they can get to a place where they can really ball control with the running game and keep the defense off the field and keep the other team's offense off the field, that will help too.
I see Brian Schottenheimer as a guy that wants to throw the ball early so that way he can run the ball in the second half, right? Where build these leads and then really lean on the opponents. They haven't really got to do that too much yet because of the game scripts, but I think it's coming.
Yeah, they want to be a good running team, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be a high volume running team necessarily, unless the game script dictates it. But you've got to become a good running football team. They have to commit to a certain amount of it in order to do it. So they can't just get into passing game scripts, and they have to be able to kind of give deference to their run game. And the good news is that they've invested in the run game enough that they're getting good results. They're getting efficient results. And that's ultimately what the Cowboys need from their run game. Not a, necessarily explosive, though they should get some more explosive plays, but a efficient run game. When you get the opportunity to run the ball, be efficient, be physical. And then when it's time to run the football, when it's the fourth quarter and you're trying to finish these games, and they know you're running the football, you still need to be able to run the ball efficiently. That's what I think is the most important thing for this Cowboys run game. And so far, I think we've seen a very positive results from that. Javonte Williams specifically, I just think has been way above and beyond what a lot of us expected.
Yeah.
You got to run defenses out of playing coverage. That's what you got to do. You got to force them to bring another guy down. And if you run the ball enough, guess what? You'll do that. And then when you do that, that's when it gives you the opportunity to be successful with the wideouts you have, with the tight end you have that can get through the seam. So you have to force people out of just not sitting back there in cover two, because cover two can give you problems if you're trying to push the ball down the field, unless you're the Dallas defense.
Unless you're the free releasing guys in the middle of your defense, right, Coach?
Matador. All right. Take our final timeout. When we come back, I want to hear this trade rumor that you guys mentioned on your show. I want you to share it with us. Also, we're going to look ahead to the Bears. And why is it that we're talking about running backs? Why is it literally like every day when I'm searching around about the Cowboys, there's some rumor about a running back? I mean, every day, even though, I mean, to your point, Javonte Williams has looked great. He's been awesome. All right, we'll get into that when we come back. This is the Cowboys Squad Show. All right, well, as you know, there's game time and then there is game time, right? And so NFL season is back, and honestly, there's really nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting the tickets can be a hassle. Between the queues, the login screens, and prices jumping at checkout can be really frustrating. So use the Game Time app that gives you the advantage back to the fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. Always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way to buy tickets. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. All right, we are back. The Cowboys Squad Show. Landon McCool, Marcus Mosher, and former Cowboys coach Glenn Stretch Smith getting ready for the Cowboys and the Bears Week 3 Sunday in the late window. Looking forward to that. All right. Before we get into that, though, guys, you did a special episode on, or at least it was part of an episode, on a possible blockbuster trade for the Cowboys. What were you thinking? What are you looking at?
First of all, don't aggregate us. This is just Landon and I answering a Twitter question, and we thought was interesting, right? So,
yeah, some people got really mad that we even talked about this. Apparently, it was pretty funny. So,
also, some people get mad if you talk. It doesn't matter. Anyways, but here's the idea, right? You have all of these picks, and you've got all this extra cap space because of the Micah Parsons trade. If there were a difference-making defensive player available, would the Cowboys pull the trigger? And does it even make sense to do it in a year that might be quote unquote lost? I think it depends, right? We were looking at Trey Hendrickson, who has been part of trade rumors all year long, and he's still on a 1-year deal in Cincinnati. He wants a long-term extension. The Bengals won't give it to him. And now the Bengals have just lost their starting quarterback for the entire season. If things start to turn south in Cincinnati, which I think it will, could they be open to a potential trade? And would it make sense for the Cowboys? I was not really open to the idea initially, but the more we talked about it, it does make some sense. If you tell me that you can have Trey Hendrickson and 2 first-round picks and Kenny Clark at $8 million a year cheaper than Micah Parsons, it's not a bad deal. Now, would Jerry Jones do it? I don't know, but I think it does make some sense.
I think, and my counterpoint to would Jerry Jones do it argument was, I think he would, because he still wants to kind of prove that he was right about the Micah Parsons thing. So that might be enough motivation for him to do it. My issue again is I think we still need to see more. This is what Marcus was saying as well, just agreeing. I think the phrase we use is keep our powder dry. I think at this point, that's what I would do. I need to see a little bit more from this team before I know, because here's the thing. Hendricks is 30 years old, about to turn 31, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think so, yes.
So, I mean, he's already a guy that, like, you know, if you're doing this trade, it's an immediate, like, sort of thing. This is not a long-term play. The first-round picks that you've got for the next year in 27, that's more of a long-term play. I mean, in the sense that those are coming next year, right? I don't know if you sign Hendrickson, would you sign him for a 2 or 3 year deal, or is it like just a rental situation? That's all.
If you're giving up picks, you're signing him, right? Like, that's the only way I see that.
Yeah, I guess unless they're trying to, like, just get something out of Hendrickson and a lost year. But I tend to think that you're right. So the question now becomes, like, what do we need to see from this team in order to feel like, okay, this is enough for us to like, hey, let's make this extra move. Let's throw I'm hoping nothing more than a 2nd-round pick at the Bengals. Let's sign Hendrickson to, what'd we say, Marcus, $37 million a year?
Yeah, probably in that range. And again, let's say it's 37, right? That's $10 million cheaper than what Micah Parsons got. Now, he's not the player Micah is. He's older, but he does get a lot of sacks, and the pass rush production is similar. You're getting a very, very good player. So this isn't like you're getting, a B- player. You're getting an A- player at a position that you absolutely need.
Yeah, and he's good specifically at what you need. So
yes.
What do you think, Coach?
I mean, my initial reaction to that is, what does next year's draft class look like? Like, if you were going to go say, let's immediately try to put together some sort of a first-round board. Tell me how many true first-round players you think there are. And I'd be asking guys that. I would be trying to find out what do you feel like this coming up year's first-round class is going to look like. And then I mean, I have no problem with the concept of it. My question still goes, is this a 7-win team? If you get him, is it a 9-win team? Is that enough to get you where you want to be? Okay, is it going to energize your fan base? okay, do you really think you have an opportunity to get to whatever you think it would take to get you into the playoffs? And if the risk reward is there, Jerry will take it. I mean, make no mistake about it. I mean, he is a wildcat, oil drilling guy. I mean, he's not afraid.
Coach, this is what Landon and I were saying. Is that sorry? I didn't mean to interrupt you, but like.
You did interrupt me.
That's all right. I did. You don't make this trade if you lose to Chicago and you lose to Green Bay and you're 1-3. Like that's a panic.
Right.
But if you beat Chicago and let's say you lose to Green Bay and you beat the Jets and you beat the Panthers and now you're sitting at 4-2 and you feel like, hey, one defensive end is going to help us beat the Eagles. Like we were really close. If we have Trey Hendrickson in that game, we feel like we can beat them. That's how you talk yourself into it. So I think Landon's right. Like I think whether or not you make a move depends on what this team does over the next month, because there's just no reason to do it if you're 1-3 or 1-4.
Yeah, because at what point, like it's like Coach just said, it's like at a certain point, like if you're an 8-win team or a 7-win team, it's like, maybe this gets you to a 9 or 10 win. But if you feel like you're just like a 5 or 6 win team trying to get to 8 wins, it's like,
what's the point?
Just take the draft, take the higher draft pick, and take the losses.
I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to put a downer spin on it.
No.
Here we sit the 17th of September. How many games do you think this team wins? Hey, we can sit here and we can cut it up all the ways we've cut it up. Realistically, how many games do you think this team wins?
That's why I want to keep my powder dry, because I honestly can't tell you at this point. I still feel like I need more information, right? Like,
okay, all right. Well, let's play the game.
That's how I feel.
Let's say Ravel is a rolling ball of butcher knives. Let's say Bland is where you want him to be. And okay, let's line all the stars up to be exactly right, and then let's come up with a number. And then that to me, that's where you're at. I don't know what Ravel can do, and is how long is Bland truly out here? Because I'm telling you right now, if you think Ben Johnson is not sitting in his office at 7:00 lapping his ass off at a secondary that he's seeing, you're crazy, because he is.
Jeff, I will say, if that $60 million quarterback keeps playing this way, they're going to win a lot of games this year.
So that could be, is that a new record?
To 58 minutes? It's way late. That's crazy, Marcus. You're just now mentioning Dak Prescott and the $60 million contract.
I see Coach,
what's going on?
He's not amused with me at all.
No,
I'm going to be getting a call later.
No, I think he's playing better than I ever thought he could play. I will go on record to say that he has done in 2 games and displayed in 2 games more than I thought he had. And I'm not afraid to say that he has done more there than I thought he could do.
Jeff, I called Stretch the other day to give him credit for a take that he had on a certain quarterback in the AFC South. And he wouldn't even let me give him credit. He was just down my throat yelling at me. It's bully. What a bully.
I would not. If you say that's yelling at you, you better go read that Parent 101 book you got in there.
All right, really quick before we go, Bears preview. What are you guys looking for? What kind of game are we thinking?
Yeah, well, first of all, we've got a crossover show with Lauren Cox of Locked on Bears that's coming out on Thursday morning, so be on the lookout for that. Nice. But these 2 teams are very similar right now. They both have a bunch of injuries on defense. They're relying on their defensive tackles to create pressure. It's just, which offense do you trust more? Do you trust Ben Johnson and all of the playmakers that they have, or do you trust Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens? I think that's where this game is going to be won. I would be shocked if this isn't a game where we see 55 or more points being scored.
I agree. I think it's gonna be tough for these defenses to face. And look, I mean, we just don't know what kind of Bears offense we're gonna get. I mean, there's so many elements that could end up being explosive, but at the end of the day, it's got to be Caleb Williams, and he's just hasn't shown us consistency yet. So if he's gonna keep up with someone who's playing as well as Dak Prescott, he's gonna definitely need to dial up the consistency from what we've seen. It's just been kind of, when he's in structure, it looks good. When he's out of structure, it doesn't look so good.
You guys got me looking up the weather report in Chicago on Sunday. 30% chance of rain, high 78.
Yeah, that's not bad. We'll take it.
I'll take a sloppy game because I don't think the Bears can run the football. So
no, they can't.
No. All right, guys. Great stuff. Great show as always. And again, don't forget that crossover podcast is tomorrow with Marcus and Landon. Coach will be on after the game on Sunday. We look forward to that. But to everybody else, thank you for getting in live, for being with us. Thank you for those watching later, and enjoy the game on Sunday as the Cowboys try to get their first road win of the season, the Matt Eberflus Bowl in Chicago against the Bears. For Marcus, Landon, and the coach, Glenn Stretch Smith, I'm Jeff Biggs. Thanks for being with us on the Cowboys Squad Show.